President Trump is set to address a joint session of Congress tonight, talking about the action he's taken in his first few weeks in office and laying out his vision for the future. It comes during a time of great turmoil in Washington, D.C. Overnight, new U.S. tariffs on imported goods took effect. The U.S. cut off military aid to Ukraine, and protests over government workers being fired are growing across the country. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington, D.C.
This morning, trade tensions ramping up with China announcing retaliatory tariffs on some U.S. food imports. Canada vowing similar steps in response to new U.S. tariffs that took effect overnight, including a blanket 25% tariff on all imported goods from Canada and Mexico and an additional 10% on Chinese imports.
What they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs.
American companies now bracing to eat added costs or pass them along to consumers. This Michigan auto parts producer imports 30% of its materials from Canada.
It means dramatically increased costs that we might not be able to recover.
At the same time, President Trump pausing military aid to Ukraine, according to two U.S. officials. After a public clash, the president asked what it would take to restart negotiations with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky toward a peace deal with Russia.
I just think he should be more appreciative because this country has stuck with them through thick and thin.
Democrats urging swift action.
Without our assistance, this gets very, very hard for the Ukrainians. And by the way, it gets easy for Russia. This is what Russia wants.
Democratic lawmakers also inviting fired federal workers to President Trump's address to Congress tonight. Erin Rehill lost her job with the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency after her boss assured her she was safe.
We have justified why you're vital to the organization.
She wants to put a face to the nation's federal workforce.
When you work for this country, you feel a pride in the work that you do.
As President Trump prepares to defend his vision for the country. In a new interview, Vice President Vance said President Trump will focus tonight on successes in his first weeks in office. There are also key challenges to address, including rising inflation and a government shutdown deadline looming next week. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.